What's up, guys? I'm the Wrestlegamer. Welcome back to Let's Play Battleship Bishojo right here in the arcade. And on the last episode, we pursued the Zo game, who looks like a girl, and can talk, and got away. I don't get it either. Anyway, let's go on. The next day, I woke up on my own this time. No weird nightmares this time. That was a plus. I suppose there was too much on my mind from yesterday. I'm recording. Can you give it a rest? I suppose there was too much on my mind from yesterday. For whatever reason, I took that giant talking tortoise really well. Like, why did I go with that so quickly? I was only there for like a day, and that was the first mythical being I had seen, and it was just totally nonchalant about it. Whatever, not like I could go back and fix it or anything. I screwed up and got under Katsu's skin. The most I could hope for was my feet to remain on a solid surface. I stood, picking up my shirt off the floor and pulling it back on. I smelled like sweat and salt water. I should really ask where they clean their clothes on here. I pushed my way through the door and made my way from Miyoko's office, planning on asking her that very question. When I arrived, there was a shirtless Sophie on a bench, her back towards me as Miyoko ran a stethoscope across her back. I paused right there, saying nothing, just staring as she did her exam. Well, everything seems to be normal, Sophie. No heart flutters or anything. I'm glad we were able to keep this in check, however. Yeah, thank you, Miyoko. I really appreciate that. Remember what I said a couple episodes ago about her playing doctor? Is this it? Yeah, Nike! Sophia turned her head just enough to see me standing in the doorway. Not wanting to get hit in the head with yet another object, I swiftly moved out of the doorway and shut the door in front of me. With that done, I backed up a bit, staring at the doorway. Eventually it opened again, Miyoko stepping forward a bit. Did you want to join? Was that an option, or... I'm sure Sophie wouldn't be more than thrilled, don't you think, Sophie? With hardly another word out of her mouth, Sophie marched out of the med bay, pulling her shirt down past her navel with a bright red hue across her face. Don't rope me into your weird fantasies, Miyoko. We talked about this. Miyoko grabbed her by the collar and she whipped back, pouting while crossing her arms under her chest. Who said we were done with your appointment yet? Oh, come on, you checked my heart. I'm fine, aren't I? It's a physical, dear. You must know that there is more to it than that. What's up with your heart, Sophie? The abrupt interjection caught both of their attentions. Sophie's eyes dropped to the floor for a moment before looking back up at me. Just a condition I've had since I was born. I've always had sort of a weak heart, I guess. I've had palpitations and flutters since I was very young, and I'm apparently really vulnerable to heart attacks because of it. Sounds concerning. Why would you take on this line of work with something like that? I have my reasons. With that, she pulled off from Miyoko's grip and went back to the med bay. Miyoko let out a sigh. I worry about her sometimes with that. She's never had a major scare as of yet, but she does tend to have shortness of breath when things get hot and heavy. Anyway, on a dime, her morbid expression turned seductive when looking back at me. So that 3-person visit is still available if you'd like to join. Considering she has heart issues, I don't think that sort of activity would be good for her. She could handle it. She's way tougher than she gives herself credit for. Look, if you want to pencil me in with Olivia, count me in. Ooh, a soft spot for her then? Between her and Katsu, there aren't that many options, let's be honest. Good point. Whatever. Suit yourself, big guy. And with that, she went back into her office, the door shutting gently behind her. I chuckled, making my way on deck to see Katsu doing her usual thing. I approached her, still a bit cautious from yesterday. I needed an icebreaker. Hey, you guys got any booze on board? Nailed it. What? No. Wait, what? She turned to face me, tearing her eyes away from the open waters in front of her. I don't know, I thought you all might be holding out on me or something. Believe it or not, I have to stay pretty sober in order to sail this thing. Alcohol isn't tolerated on board. Now, we do visit taverns on our off hours when we want to see life again. But there's nothing like that on board? Sorry, we had to save room for water and food. That's so boring, though. Is this going to be another Daiki whines about what he can't have day, or you're actually going to help for once? Look, I'm sorry I messed up so bad yesterday. It wasn't something I was meaning to do. I know, Daiki, I'm not mad about that. And if we're being honest here, my plan was pretty faulty, in all honesty. We weren't ready for that sort of bounty yet. Huh. What, you expect me to be vindictive about it or something? I'm capable of humility like anyone else, Daiki. Oh no, it's not that, it's just wasn't expecting it so quick was all. Well, when you're on open waters with only 3 people around you for so long, Daiki, you learn how to read people. How does that make any sense? Think about it. If you're surrounded by crowds and masses of people, how do you get to know them? If anything, people just become some living mass that just happens around you. But since I've gotten to know the 3 ladies on this ship, well, I've sort of learned my way around people skills. You mean you were worse at this before? She shot me a harsh glare. I mean, that's interesting. Regardless of what you think of me, Daiki, and what I do, I'm still a person. Just one you don't know well. Isn't it always the... Cody, I'm recording, Cody! Isn't it always the case that with people you don't know, they come off as whatever you visually perceive, only decorated by the small... Cody, if you do it again, I'm sending you to your room. I'm recording right now. Cut it out. That was your 2nd strike. Do not make it a 3rd strike. You will not like it if a 3rd strike happens. Isn't it always the case that with people you don't know, they come off as whatever you visually perceive, only decorated by the small encounters you may or may not have had? You're getting way too philosophical for a pirate who hunts sea monsters. Fine. Look, I want you to get along with people on this ship just as I have gotten along with all my crewmates. But if that's too hard of a mission for you, then I guess just leave them be. Honestly, the only crewmate that I have had an issue with getting to know on board is you, Captain. With that, the Sheen came to a creaking halt. Cantu and I both wobbled forward, grabbing onto something nearby in order to prevent ourselves from going overboard. What in the world? What is going on? If I had to guess, I'd say a large creature, possibly a giant mermaid. Giant mermaid? Why did you jump straight to that? Do you honestly think I'll believe that mermaids can be Before I could finish, a head slowly rose from the sea. Large hands gripping the bow of the boat before the creature could push back. When it finally came in view, I realized it was pretty much what Katsu was talking about. Hello there! She was pretty casual about all of this. She swam somewhat awkwardly around the ship and took a seat on the bow, the ship tilting greatly forward, but not enough to capsize. Katsu and I both scurried up to safer land and merely gawked up at the creature in front of us. Are mermaids usually this size, Captain? I've heard legends of them being this big, yes. Hey, I can hear you guys down there. I'm not deaf, you know. And they're not big. She pouted, holding her bust lightly and squeezing self-consciously. Oh, sorry about that. And I have a name. It's Oceanne. Oceanne. Well, it's very nice to meet you, Oceanne. What your... She elbowed my side. Keep quiet for once and follow my lead. I nodded and watched her slowly approach Oceanne. So, Oceanne. The busty blonde nodded, water flying from her hair and falling upon the ship like an instant shower. Katsu froze for a second from that, but continued. So what brings you here? That's a weird question. I live out here. But the question is why you're out here. She has a point. Shut it. She hissed over at me and then looked back up at Oceanne, her smile reappearing. Alright, so is there any reason that you have come up to the surface and sat upon our ship? Oceanne shrugged, causing the whole ship to shake. By now the whole crew was on board, speechless, staring up upon the massive mermaid. It's been a while since I visited the surface and conversed among the land dwellers. It's so interesting how you all float along here from one place to another, you know. By now, Sophie had gotten over to Katsu, ready for any order she might give. Katsu leaned over and whispered something to her, but I could faintly make out the word harpoon. Sophie nodded and made her way back toward the others, informing them of the instructions Katsu was given. So, Oceanne, was there anything you wanted while you were making this visit, or? Actually, now that you mention it, I'm quite famished. I could almost see the sweat crawling down Katsu after that statement. You don't say. Well, would you be so kind as to just speak to us for a moment before doing anything brash? Well, I'm not usually supposed to talk to land dwellers, but I guess I could make an exception today because of how bored I am. Yeah, I got a question. Daiki, no. Listen, I got this. I stepped forward, getting her attention a bit. I couldn't help but wonder how much water we were taking on right now, but I guess that Olivia was on that from the fact that she was no longer on the upper decks anymore. So, do you have a home, Oceanne? Of course I do. There's this big city directly where you all are now. I live there. Alright, well, do you have... Oh, I can barely hear you here. In one swift moment, she adjusted herself and leaned her hand down, gesturing for me to stand upon it. I heard Katsu calling out for me from behind, but I gave her a subtle wave and moved towards it, standing upon her palm. Almost instantly, I was lifted right next to her face. Oh, I gotta say, you are even more gorgeous up close. She blushed, waving her hand abashedly at my statement. Oh, stop! No, I mean it. I haven't seen many merfolks, admittedly, but man, you are quite the sight. How long have you been around, Oceanne? Well, in human years, I think I'd be considered like 19 or something. A body like this at 19? Dang, Oceanne. That rhymed. It was not intentional, I assure you. I looked down and admired the view. Seriously, those are impressive, too. I whistled and Oceanne giggled. All was going to plan. Do you want a closer look? I grinned at the offer. It was too good to pass up. You know, I like the sound of that. Oceanne let out a small giggle before quickly thrusting her hand up to her chest. I felt myself tumble towards onto something soft, damp, and warm before sliding down between two squishy orbs of flesh. Just like that, it went dark, but I could still hear muffled shouts from outside. Idiot! Olivia, take the shot now! I couldn't see any of what was going on in the pitch darkness I was trapped in, but I heard it. There was a whizzing sound, a shriek from Oceanne, and some muffled shout of, "You jerks!" before I felt myself being thrust forwards. Uh-oh. And just like that, I felt and heard a harsh crash around me, and the sound of flood quickly showering me completely without any of the water, which was odd. If I was thinking correctly, Oceanne had just dived back into the water. I could feel myself moving quickly, moving down at a breakneck pace. How deep were we going? Did she remember I was here? Out of pure fear and worry, I began to muscle my way out of the soft, pliable walls around me before peeking my head out. To my surprise, instead of being doused with water, I could breathe just fine. And above me was Oceanne's face. She looked absolutely mad, and it took me a moment to notice why. A big chunk of her long golden locks had been severed. I did my best to speak up and get her attention, tapping the bottom of her collarbone lightly, then firmly. She looked down, her eyes lighting up in surprise. She stopped swimming in that moment and flipped herself forwards, causing me to topple onto the surface of one of her boobs. Oh my goodness, I completely forgot about you. How? You just dropped me down there. Oh, it's just your friends up there shot something at me and I panicked. Look, I need to get home, alright? Can you drop me off first up there before... I'm really sorry, but this can't wait. I promise I'll get you back to your friends after this. Okay? I adjusted myself onto her, getting into a more comfortable position on her well-endowed frame, and then nodded. She continued to swim down at a more comfortable pace. I decided to kill my boredom while she swam, not like I could do much to convince her at this point. So how am I breathing right now? Huh? Alright, I don't really think about it anymore. Well, I don't have gills. No mermaids do. Instead, we just create a bubble of air around us at all times. You can make a bubble? Of course, silly. I don't have many abilities aside from just that, and talking to sea turtles and stuff. Huh, interesting. We were quiet for a bit of time as we continued our descent into the dark, murky depths. An aura of light seemed to shine off of her bubble. So you got any family? Yeah, I have a couple of older sisters. They're super nice. Do you want to meet them? I mean, if they're as beautiful as you, then yeah. This elicited another smile and blush from Oceanne. Oh, stop. But I think it's for the best that I get back up to the others as soon as I can. Well, it brought the mood down. She nodded in understanding. A few more minutes of swimming later, and we finally reached a clearing. And what I saw made my jaw drop. A huge arch held up by an ancient-looking blue stone rose up from the ground beyond us. Seaweed and algae crawled along the side of it, and pillars accentuating the facade. Beyond that, on the other side, laid what looked like a watchtower surrounded by a parapet, all tinted in a similar shade of blue. Beyond that seemed to be an entire city crawling out for miles. It was almost too much to take in. You live here? Oceanne nodded with a smile, stopping for a moment to let me have a long look. Super pretty, right? I mean, I still think we should fix up some of the cracks on the front, but Daddy's too busy keeping us out of wartime. Wartime, eh? Oceanne nodded, seeming to think very little of it. I mean, something like that was typical, but I decided to keep my thoughts to myself. So what did you need to do? All right, hold on, we're almost where we need to be. With that, we found our way zooming through the arch, making our way through the ancient city. It was all a blur. I could barely keep track until we were finally in what seemed like a room. But before we go any further, as we approach this room, guys, before we go any further, guys and gals, we're going to go ahead and call it an episode. If you guys like this video, be sure you slam that like button, like a champion. If you guys want to see more Battleship Bishojo right here on the arcade, you know the two ways you got to do it. You got to leg drop the subscribe button and hit that bell icon to turn on notifications, so that way you guys never miss out on another one of my videos here on my channel. So with that being said, I am your friendly neighborhood Wrestle Gamer, reminding all of you out there to stay awesome. Bye, guys!